The idea for Capsule came from just reading the Sunday Times Fast Track, which I've done from a weirdly young age, and just read about these kind of crazy entrepreneurs that are our age and actually depressingly younger.
Fresh out of school, not even uni.
I know, it makes you think, God, why did we take this long?
Trials, tribulations, mistakes, barriers, successes and failures. Hear it here firsthand from those that have grown billion-dollar businesses to those that are just starting out. Winner of the Campaign Publishing Award for Best Business Podcast in the UK, Success is in the Mind is the only place where you can get a sense of business reality in a world full of idealism. Everyone claims to be an entrepreneur, but can everyone live up to the title? What does it take to start a business, to get your product into a high street store or grow a well-managed team? I'm Oliver Bruce, founder and entrepreneur myself. Join me as I interview business leaders and founders from across the globe, delving into what makes them tick, their differentiators and intrinsic motivators. This is Success is in the Mind. Success is in the Mind is proud to be sponsored by Coronation Wealth Management, a professional service providing tailored financial advice to business owners, entrepreneurs, managers and clients looking to grow and protect their wealth or reach their financial goals. The team at Coronation Wealth provides services including retirement, investment, protection and business planning. To find out more, go to coronationwealth.co.uk. Thomas Wynne forged his career in the world of insurance from a young age. From working for his parents' insurance company, Kingsbridge, for nearly 9 years, Thomas and his family have recently exited for a healthy 164 million quid. Now, going it alone, Thomas has founded, in June 2021, Capsule. And again, in the insurance world, I asked Thomas if it's best to stick to an industry that one's familiar with. Could he have done it without his parents? And can you learn entrepreneurship? Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Wynne.
Thanks for having me, Oliver.
So, Tom, you're now the founder and CEO of Capsule, but before that, you worked for your parents' company, Kingsbridge. It was obviously your parents that got you into insurance. Could you have done it without the helping hand?
I mean, I probably wouldn't have chosen to without the helping hand. I think, like kind of other similar industries, very few dream of children that they're going to end up in the insurance broking industry. But often kind of it's one of those industries that you come out of university and kind of fall into. I guess my world was actually kind of watching mum and dad set up the business in 2000 when I was 10 and go through that journey. And it's just one of those things. When I was a kid, I was much more interested in business and entrepreneurship and making money and things like that than academia and school. And so it's always just something I was super interested in. And it's kind of same with my brother. And I mean, it really was a case of the business was set up round our dining room table. So when I was going out to school in the morning, employees were coming in.
You must have had a massive dining room table.
Well, it did grow, so it was a cool kind of thing to kind of grow up around and seeing. And I guess the writing was probably on the wall that in some way we would have got involved.
So, in terms of why you jumped into it, when you jumped into it, you went to London Business School. What did you study there that set you up to essentially be pumped into Kingsbridge as MD?
Yeah, it was really the other way around, to be honest. So came out of school, did a little bit of time at Kingsbridge, and at that point it was 10 people, very much just a traditional corporate insurance broker for large multinationals, all the way down to SMEs. Really, like I said, wasn't really kind of focused on kind of academic at school, but found myself doing a year at Kingsbridge, thinking about the idea of university, and actually went up to Liverpool with the plan of studying for university, and did a couple of years there, whilst also working at Kingsbridge in the Liverpool office. And actually, it wasn't for me. I mean, it was really good fun, and I learned a lot in other ways. But it was actually after that I toyed and played with I went and sold gin for a big gin company. I went and opened a Byron Hamburgers in the first non-London restaurant, thinking that I maybe would want to go and do so. I kind of open a restaurant.
I think Byron Burgers are opening up next to us, or at least in town, are they not?
Are they? Well, I mean, they've had a funny old time since kind of back then, but at the time they were huge in London. Old kind of Etonian entrepreneur set them up, and I thought maybe I kind of quite fancied the idea of kind of setting up my own restaurant chain or something. And I went to him and he said, "It's bloody hard. I'll show you how hard. Go and open one of the restaurants outside London, the first one outside London." And I did Oxford, and he was right. You didn't get paid very much. It's really hard. It's long hours. And I came out of that and I was really reassessing and kind of probably spending too much time in bed. And Dad said, "Look, come come and have a look at kind of Kingsbridge now. There's some exciting things. And I thought, oh, God, this is the last thing I want to do. But actually, kind of dusted myself off, yes. Went down and really just kind of stuck back into it. As I said, kind of I've always just enjoyed kind of entrepreneurship, innovating, disruption. And what I really did when I kind of got back there is think, how could I change it for the better? What could we be doing? Where's the opportunity? And I was lucky, to your point earlier, Oliver, in terms of having kind of dad with a similar ethos. So once he could see that what we were doing in this new division that we were kind of launching was paying dividends, then actually we just kept investing and kept growing that team and kept kind of developing the business and it ended up working.
So what school did you go to? Because you mentioned that obviously Byron Berger's chap went to Eton. How did you know him?
Yeah, so I went to a normal state school, Prince Henry's in Evesham, and I had an idea when I was up in Liverpool for opening a kind of pizza by the slice restaurant chain, and I reached out to some guy that I could see that had done it in London, and it looked awesome, but it ultimately hadn't worked. And he was in that set, and he said, "You've got to go meet my friend Tom Bing. He's a bit crazy like you, and he'll probably tell you not to do it, but he's worth a conversation." Luckily, combination of those two guys got that out of me and set me back on track.
And in terms of being disruptive and entrepreneurial back when you were at school and through university and again into your career now, what did you do from a young age that was disruptive or entrepreneurial then?
I'll focus on entrepreneurial rather than disruptive because I'm not sure that's broadcastable. Yeah. I honestly, like kind of the passion I didn't have for just learning and lessons, which I go back and I was questioning, why would I need to learn in IT? Why would I need to learn French? And then suddenly when you're in business, you realize the reason you needed to learn all those things. And now I'm trying to do that retrospectively. No, I was at car boot sales every weekend when I was younger, and then selling these things on eBay. I was the first person to start selling Emma Bridgewater pottery on eBay. And I used to go out with my mum to Stoke-on-Trent to their seconds warehouse and kind of wholesale buy all of their seconds that had kind of tiny little issues with, and then we'd sell them on eBay. And
were you honest though? Did you tell people that they were basically the cast-offs, or did you say that they were perfect Emma Bridgewaters and they got damaged in the post?
I'm not sure I'm in a position to comment on that. But there were things like that, like it set up kind of coach loads of guys from Evesham and Cheltenham to go to Alton Towers, kind of started the school leaver hoodie craze by, I don't know, buying them for £15 and selling them out for 30.
So you're the man, are you, Tom? You're the man behind the leaver hoodie?
In Evesham.
Not globally. You're just in Evesham.
That would be good. No, I spotted them at all the good schools in Cheltenham and thought, why don't we get those? So kind of things like that. Kind of, it was kind of eBay. It was kind of buying things, selling things, and yeah, I kind of really got a taste and a flavour for that. eBay clearly was back then. It was in its kind of real early days, and you see people from that era that kind of have gone on to be eBay millionaires and set up their own businesses. And unfortunately, Emma didn't get me quite that far. But
it gave you experience nonetheless. But being so entrepreneurial from such a young age, then jumping into your parents' businesses, yes, you're MD, but fundamentally you had to answer to your mum and dad still. How was it essentially answering to a manager?
Yeah, and I guess kind of just to fact check that versus actually kind of how my LinkedIn reads. The reality was I started there kind of 15 grand a year business development, or kind of not even kind of a sales exec role, renewing policies, and really just kind of grew within the business over time. I mean, the Kingsbridge Contractor Insurance, which is the division that just flew for us, didn't fly initially, and there was only a couple of us, and really we had to just find our niche, and it took a number of years between 2010 and 2014 for us to really work out what were we, who were we serving, what was the product, and that was the kind of that was the real kind of challenge for us and the learning experience, and it's the kind of 14 to 20 where we really worked that out and flew.
That's also when you made most of your money, really, and you did an element of exiting in terms of sale of majority of shares, etc., etc. Was that simply because the trajectory was so positive? Then that was the time to liquidate?
I think there was an element of mum and dad had the business for 14 years at the point that they took any kind of money off the table, and there's always that perception of kind of a business owner of, look, aren't they doing very, very well? But the reality is often they're reinvesting all their profits into the business, often they've kind of got a huge mortgage, and the reality is often very different to kind of what you see on the outside. And I think it was an opportunity really for them to de-risk, whilst also giving an opportunity to kind of younger management to come through and actually and kind of get equity through the investment process. So in answer to your question, Oliver, that I didn't properly answer, how hard was it to be kind of told what to do? It's never something I've been very good at anywhere. But look, I think I was always kind of more than happy for a number of years to be the student. We have very, very different skill sets. I've always been very much kind of focused on kind of sales, innovation, partnerships, kind of that type of world. Whereas Dad comes from an insurance background and kind of insurance broking for 40 years. His focus has always been on just crazy customer service. And so drilling things like that into me and my peers at that kind of young age actually kind of, you're never really in the position where you were being kind of really kind of felt like you were being told what to do. You felt more like we were on a really, really cool, exciting journey. We had more of an opportunity than I think most other 20-something-year-olds have to really kind of influence the future of the business.
So Tom, obviously, you were very lucky because your parents did give you that ability to join the business. Yes, you grew within it, etc. But had your parents not given you that opportunity, you being entrepreneurial, what would you have done, do you think?
Oh, it's a really good question. I guess I don't think I mean, if you think how it played, kind of went to uni for a couple of years, then got really excited by kind of things I was doing. So in the gin market, which kind of gin back in kind of 10 years ago wasn't really a big thing. There were a couple of gins on every back bar, and now you struggle to go to a pub that doesn't have 20 gins on their back bar. And I easily could have just got swept into that world, and kind of almost was in it just before it was trendy. So I do kick myself. I didn't go down that route. Equally, I don't know, would have loved to have done some traveling, would have loved to have kind of done that. But I think ultimately I would have ended up in a sales role. I think that would have been the natural thing. I kind of find it very easy to get excited about kind of cool, innovative, ambitious businesses. And so whether I would have ended up in London or where, kind of ended up hopefully in an entrepreneurial business. But I see lots of kind of people that work in recruitment, which is a world I know very well from kind of us insuring recruitment businesses and Kingsbridge. And you see lots of people with the same hunger and drive that just end up in different roles. But ultimately, a good salesman tends to end up in a sales role.
Hopefully, if they practice what they preach. In terms of, you mentioned about travelling and the regrets, etc., that you have. Obviously, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't go travelling, didn't have a gap year, or your mate from Eton would call it a gap year, I'm sure. But what's one of your biggest regrets from between university to joining the business, or do you not have any?
Yeah, no, I think I mean, I'm a massive believer that grass is always greener. When I was kind of there on the phones renewing insurance policies, and I was 18, and I was thinking, look at all these guys at uni. And I when you're working, you're thinking, look at all these guys traveling the world. But then they return home and they're like, I really need a job. And so there is grass is always greener. I would have loved to have gone and done a ski season. I would have loved to travel. And the advice I always give to grads and pre-grads, that kind of people that have done their A-levels, is there really, really is no rush. I always thought at school, God, if you take a gap year, then you're 1 year behind in uni, you'll be younger than people, you'll be behind in the jobs market, but there's so much more kind of learning you can do just by being out there and kind of going and doing things, experimenting. And you hear I hear in my family kind of worries around so-and-so's not got a job yet, kind of they haven't found their thing, but honestly, it just happens. You kind of, and I see that kind of time and time again. So go out and have those experiences, because my advice was always, right, get a job, get back to work. And it wouldn't kind of be the advice I would give to people. I'd say just kind of go with the flow and go and have as much experience as you can. And when you're ready to work, or kind of you'll just kind of find your way to something.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of Kingsbridge and how it was set up then, structurally, did you have equity in the business?
I didn't ever until the point that we went through our first private equity investment.
Which was 2014.
So in 2014, we took investment from a company called IFIS, who very quickly changed their name to Living Bridge.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that one. Yeah.
So, obvious reasons. It was at that point that for the first time, myself and other members of management got equity, and we were lucky that grew as the business grew.
Did you buy in or get gifted that then?
Yeah, I've had to buy in. It's what you find in private equity is there tends to be a sweet equity pot, which is negotiated, which is kind of put aside by that investor to incentivize management. And the management, the incoming management or the incumbent management, they're expected to deliver the plan that you've ultimately gone out and sold. Then tends to be then given some sweet equity, which it should, if what you put in the deck is true, should grow.
And in terms of, obviously, your parents at that point were liquidating their shareholding. I'm assuming they were the only two shareholders in the business. So it was essentially your mum and dad that came up with the decision to liquidate equity to get the investment. At the point that you had essentially the next sale or the next cohort of investors in 2016, you were a shareholder at that point. So how did that work in terms of a dialogue as to who said now, basically?
Yeah, so 14, it was absolutely Dad's decision to de-risk the family as he saw it and take some money off the table, but also to bring in other expertise and other people that could kind of help us take it to the next level, kind of based on our ambition. The deal in 16 to sell a majority stake was a real combination of that incumbent investor, so that they'll have a view, but they don't have a very emotional view. They're there to, more often than not, kind of get 3 times their money if they can.
Within what, 3 years?
I mean, that tends to be what they're aiming for, 3 times the money in 3 to 5 years. We were very lucky we were lucky in a way that we got there earlier. We really started to ride a wave. We really kind of were delivering in the market that we were growing in, and it was a growing market. And so we actually kind of, within 2.5 years, we were there. And there was lots of external interest in the world that we were playing. Part of it is just led by the market. The reality was that we were very much head down, and we always have been that. We've never been kind of out looking for investment, and I really don't think that's the way the businesses should go. I think if you just keep your head down, keep focused, and keep growing, then ultimately the opportunities tend to come to you. We're very successful at just kind of, I remember an investor calling us silent and violent in terms of kind of, no one had heard of Kingsbridge, no one knows where Tewkesbury is,
no, it's true.
and so actually kind of even Cheltenham's a stretch for kind of, especially if they're international investors, and even in the insurance market, people hadn't really heard of us as individuals, maybe kind of Dad aside, or Kingsbridge, because we just very much stayed to our niches and we stayed in the world that we lived. So within the recruitment world, within contractor and freelance world, and lived within those ecosystems. And so when we got round to the second opportunity, at each time there was an opportunity. Look, you can sell to trade, and there's lots of big beast insurance brokers that will happily mop you up. But we never wanted to lose what we built in terms of the brand, in terms of the people. We didn't want to sell, no offense to Aon, but we didn't want to sell to Aon and suddenly become Aon Tewkesbury. And so that was always important. And then there was always kind of fire in our belly that we knew that we could grow more. And so at the first time, lots of trade offers. No, thank you. Look, we really believe in the growth story. And the second time, same again. It was more trade offers than private equity, but we knew that we wanted to go again. And even in 20, and that was kind of trips to the States and ultimately sold to a US buyer. We sold to a really, really cool entrepreneurial, much bigger than us, set up by 2 brothers. There was that family element, but lots of their kind of values and culture matched ours, and that was always so important. That the Kingsbridge name lived on, the people within it were able to grow, but actually now that they're with a partner that could help them with their international ambition, that really just wasn't our world. We always explored it, and we never quite got there, and actually kind of got that ability to leave it with people that will get it there.
In terms of when you exited Kingsbridge, it was such an integral part of your life from a childhood point of view all the way through to your late 20s. Shifting it isn't just selling a business, it's basically selling part of your life, what you've known for the last 20 years or so. How did that feel when you left it?
Yeah, it was bittersweet, and I think, and I back kind of this founder point. When you're truly the founder, I think it is much more of an emotional process, and so for Dad, it was I remember the first time when I did the minority stake, it was kind of a real kind of pinch yourself moment, but actually kind of bittersweet. For me, look, it was an amazing 10 plus years where I worked with family, I worked with friends, I made new friends, and we went on such a cool journey. And I guess I'm massively grateful for kind of the opportunity Kingsbridge gave and for that experience, and for everything I learned around kind of the investment world and such. And so you're exactly right. I mean, kind of other entrepreneurs have said kind of when you sell a business, it's not necessarily what you imagine it would be when you kind of work towards it for months. And I think that's right. But I see it as a chapter, and I feel kind of really proud that it's still going and growing and continuing to do really cool things, and kind of it's just in a kind of on its kind of next part of the journey.
Our sponsors, Coronation Wealth Management, provide a professional service providing tailored financial advice to business owners, entrepreneurs, managers, and clients looking to grow and protect their wealth or reach their financial goals. The owners of a dental practice turned to Coronation Wealth for help with their retirement planning, and this is how Coronation Wealth helped them.
We turned to Chris and the team at Coronation Wealth for help with planning our retirement. With Chris's experience and advice, we built a plan to achieve the level of income required to maintain our lifestyle.
Coronation Wealth Management LLP is an appointed representative of and represents only St James's Place Wealth Management plc, which is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority for the purpose of advising solely on the group's wealth management products and services, more details of which are set out on the group's website www.sjp.co.uk/products. What equity did you have in the business at the exit point in 2020?
Yeah, management and kind of original founders had maybe 30% equity across the business at that point.
Okay, so you walked away with a decent amount of money to change your life for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And is that the money that you've reinvested into your new startup, which has been going all of 5 months at the point this is being recorded? And you set it up in June 2021. It's called Capsule. Did you reinvest what you'd taken from Kingsbridge into that business?
Yeah, I did. So that's kind of been the plan, is kind of self-finance for as long as possible, and kind of roll that money back into Capsule and hope it works.
And so talk to me about what Capsule is then.
Yeah. So Capsule very much is in its simplest form is an insurance partner for high growth businesses. So your question about kind of the insurance, kind of coming into the insurance market, it's hard to get many people very excited about insurance, whether you're kind of working in it or buying, or you're a buyer of it.
Yes. It's a necessary evil, really, insurance, isn't it?
And unfortunately, that's what kind of the views people have and kind of how they see it. And I guess what I wanted to do when I came out and kind of continued in insurance is I really wanted to work with businesses I was passionate about. And I love kind of the idea for Capsule came from just reading the Sunday Times Fast Track, which I've done from a weirdly young age, and just read about these kind of crazy entrepreneurs that are our age and actually depressingly younger.
Fresh out of school, not even uni.
I know, it makes you think, God, why do we take this long?
I tend to agree.
And so it's really about kind of looking at businesses that are in the fast track, that are kind of your Brewdogs, your Gustos, your Gymsharks, your Monzos. That was kind of thinking, who on earth is insuring these guys? And so I went and spoke to loads of them. And what I found is they were either buying insurance online and then very quickly outgrowing it, or they were buying from traditional SME insurance brokers that were near them, or their dad insured with them, or they found them online. And what I struggled to find was an insurance broker that really actually acted as a partner to these high growth businesses that are often first time founders, first time finance directors, that are really clever guys, but actually haven't been insurance buyers necessarily in a kind of in this capacity before, and actually partners with them when they're changing so quickly, they're launching new products or they're launching into new markets. And I guess what we found was quite shocking, which was our view is that probably 80% of all high growth businesses are underinsured or insured on the wrong basis, just because of kind of the nature of how they're buying it, where they're buying it from, or the service they're getting. And so that's what we're really here to shake up, is providing like unbelievable products, unbelievable service, but also massive understanding of the challenges high growth businesses face, from being there ourselves to these businesses, to help them unlock growth and scale, but scale safely.
So there must be an element of risk to you guys as Capsule, ensuring such a high growth and indeed risky, I suppose, business or businesses, because obviously they could go pop because they're over leveraging themselves to some extent. What kind of seed funding and kind of startup capital do you need to have to start a business like Capsule? Because if someone claims, where are you going to get your £1 million payout?
Yeah. So the kind of the important thing to remember is that Capsule are an insurance broker. So Capsule are there acting on behalf of the customer to make sure you've got the right program, you've got the right products, you've got the right wording, and that you're paying the right premiums. But importantly, if a claim happens, that it will respond. We then go out to the external insurer market. But you're absolutely right that the big challenge we found in the insurer market is they hear young founder, they hear high growth, and they think high risk. And actually, it's just not reflective of our experience. Actually, and this is ESG, kind of environmental and social and governance factors plays a huge part in what we're building at Capsule, and I'll kind of talk about that in a second. But we've really been trying to prove to insurers that actually there is just this kind of thing happening in the market now, that you're getting young founders, young entrepreneurs that are disrupting and innovating in traditional sectors, and are actually, it is responsible, sustainable growth. It just so happens that it looks different to, these businesses look different to the ones that have gone before them. And one thing that we've always had a view on is that the younger the business, the more these kind of environmental, social, and governance factors are almost baked into the business. And the younger the founder, they're kind of the newer they are. If they're going for VC money, if they're raising venture debt, actually their kind of focus on the environment versus that of a traditional SME tends to be heightened. The way that they treat staff, the way that they kind of treat their customers, tends to have had kind of real scrutiny when they're kicking off, because they're trying to disrupt something that's gone before them. So in doing that, they're having to improve on what the traditional services they see are, and we're seeing increasing focus on the gender diversity of a board, the racial diversity of a board, and people inviting external shareholders to board meetings, and all of those are ways of measuring a business. And the amazing thing we found is no SMEs in underwriting. When you go to an insurer, they'll ask you, Oliver, what's your revenue, what's your headcount, where are your offices, and what do you do? They won't ask you, tell me about these softer things around kind of environmental impact, social impact, kind of how you treat your staff, culture and such. But they're really, really important, and governance especially, that kind of regularity of board meetings and such like that. All of those, if you compare two identical businesses and one scores very well from ESG, that one should outperform the other business in terms of growth. They should fail less frequently than the other businesses. They should claim less, and their claims should be less severe. And it's widely accepted now, kind of big business, that kind of there is this link between ESG and the risk profile of the business. But in SME underwriting, it's not assessed, and it should be. And so we've been working really hard with insurers over the last couple of months to get that acceptance and also get that commitment that they will look at these factors. Because what I want to do is, with our cool high growth clients, is to say, yes, they're growing like crazy, but actually, look, we're measuring their ESG over time, and actually, look, there's an improvement over time. So yes, they're growing, but they're also professionalizing, and that does go to risk profile.
And do you think, because obviously lots of businesses, and I've said this fairly publicly, in as much as if you're not set up from a sustainability and a diversity point of view now, you ain't going to win tenders moving forwards, because every tender these days simply says, what is your sustainability, what is your diversity policy, X, Y, and Z. And businesses that don't have that really aren't going to be around much longer. So by mitigating against the risk and making sure that the businesses that you're brokering and insuring have that in place, I'm assuming you're hedging on the upside being longer term.
Yeah, I think if you look at just kind of the general investment market, even kind of publicly traded businesses, ESG businesses are outperforming in terms of growth, but they're also outperforming in terms of share growth because they're more attractive, and that level of attraction transfers exactly like you say to tenders. So there's a big part of us. We want to build a values-led business, aligning with values-led insurers that will recognize and reward those that are doing things differently. And we want to provide a home to those that are doing things differently, that are kind of based on their ESG-ness, if that's a word, but kind of give them a home where they look that actually the business that they're dealing with, they kind of share the same values. But I think it is so important. But equally, it has to just be done properly, and it has to be done credibly, and it has to be done kind of authentically. The obvious kind of greenwashing is such a huge word, and lots of businesses maybe not guilty of it, but they kind of maybe just overstate what they're doing kind of on the journey that they're on. And I think it's important to just be really transparent as to where you're up to. I kind of ESG and sustainability is a journey, and everybody's at a certain stage of it, and I think that just needs to be accepted. And I just think there's a great opportunity for smaller, younger businesses to be more agile and fleet and foot.
And you are a small and a young business, being 5 months old. You've got a business partner. Do you have any investors, or is it very much just yourself and Liam?
Yeah, it's myself and Liam, and then we have raised a small amount of debt from my parents. That kind of seeds over a couple of years. We've then kind of gone and hired some kind of key people. So we've kind of, this might be perverse, but put Dad in as chairman, having had years of under him to actually go, look, kind of there's loads of ways that you can be really adding value to us. I mean, our second hire after that was, to your point then, Oliver, was a chief sustainability officer. Again, somebody that we've worked with for years, but real kind of focus in governance and sustainability. But no, in terms of kind of investment, the kind of, it was all from kind of the shareholders within Capsule. And we really have no sense as to kind of next steps beyond this.
So the staffing's what, 4 then? It's yourself, Liam, Chief Sustainability Officer, and your dad who's chair.
Yeah, and we've just hired a head of marketing. We've hired a brand manager, and now the focus is building a broking team and a growth team. So I would hope over the next few months we'll hire anywhere between 4 and 6 kind of what in old money were business development managers, but in new money are growth leads. Growth leads
indeed. And looking at, I suppose, how lucky you've been in terms of you're able to quite easily raise money to be able to have a burn rate which is sustainable and be able to punt on these hires, not least a chief sustainability officer, which wouldn't be most people's first hire. Now, what would you have done if you didn't have that access to cash? To people listening to this who are wanting to start a business, haven't got access to the money, what would be your process?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess, and the thing the point to labour here is the kind of the capital that we plan to spend over the next few years is kind of mid to low 6-figure sums rather than kind of 7+. It's not kind of crazy VC money, kind of a few $1 million. So we're kind of bootstrapping to an extent, but also we expect to become profitable after a couple of years based on that kind of early investment in growth. And I think my kind of biggest advice is do it with somebody. I think there's a real thing I've always had about kind of doing it solo is very, very hard. And I watched that with my dad, and I've watched that with other businesses. I think doing it with 3 people is also very hard. So finding someone that's on your page that doesn't have skills that you have that fills the gap, super important. And then for me, it's all about finding the way to make money early is so important. I've seen so many amazing businesses and amazing concepts where they've built unbelievable tech and they've hired a great board and they've even taken money from really, really great investors, but they didn't focus on sales. And that's kind of, it's easier said than done, but finding a way to achieve the growth. And it's the advice I get from entrepreneurs I speak to is whatever, you can do all of these things, but if you haven't kind of got a growth story and if you're not bringing money in, then it's a lot harder to do all the other things you want to do.
Yeah. You can sort out overselling, but you can't sort out if you haven't sold anything, because you haven't got anything to sort out. In fact, you haven't got a business at all. In terms of what your journey is then, but you've been in it for 5 months, it's not even half a year yet. What are you going to do with the business over the next 12, 18, 24 months? You say that you'll be profitable in 2 years' time. What are your overheads at the moment, and how much is it costing you to run it before you'll become profitable?
this is when I talk about having a partner that's good at stuff that you're not.
Is he the numbers man?
Yeah, he really. I'll have to phone a friend.
Catch Liam in.
Yeah, I mean, the focus is very much on kind of hiring a growth team and then focusing on a couple of these innovation projects. We're looking at revenue-based insurance where businesses are kind of paying month to month based on actual in-month revenue, so they don't end up underinsured or overpaying for insurance based on future projections. We're focused on the ESG piece. The focus really over the next 24 months is finding our way into niches. We're targeting VC-backed businesses. We're targeting high-growth businesses that have maybe won an award, featured on a high-growth list, gone through an accelerator program. And then we're really kind of finding our niche into finding our way into niches like fintech or e-commerce or certain worlds that are high growth in themselves, where it feels like there's an opportunity to kind of add real value to these customers as they scale. And in terms of overheads, it's very, very much people. It's kind of really good people. I said we've hired a head of marketing, someone I've been aware of in the market and known but never worked directly with, i.e. kind of in the same team for a number of years. And it's those type of people that I think can really propel the business forward in a way, kind of because they just have such different skills to myself and my co-founders. And so that's the big cost. And then just investment in technology, but doing it in a clever way so that you're not having to spend hundreds of thousands of pounds up front without knowing whether what you're building is adding real value.
Looking back at Kingsbridge and lessons learned then that you've transitioned into Capsule with, what were your key takeaways, key lessons that you learned whilst working for somebody that you can implement when working for yourself? Yeah,
a massive part of it was kind of the culture and the vibe of the business and having a mission and being on a journey. And it wasn't something that I even necessarily drove. It was others within the business that just saw the importance of it. We're working in insurance. We're based out in a business park, actually a 15-minute drive outside the main town that people are coming from. And there has to be something that attracts them to come and work for you. And actually there was an element of family feel. There was an element of these guys are just growing and growing, that you can put pool tables and table tennis tables all around the office, but there has to be something more than that. And so there was a real investment in culture and activities, in kind of the kind of training and kind of taking people, kind of showing people their route to the top of the business. And I think that is just so important. The generation below us, the focus isn't always on how much money can I earn. It's actually on like, where can I work from and what's the journey and actually what's the purpose of this business. And that's where I think kind of encapsulate the ESG element of working with sustainable businesses. That gets people going when I speak to them, because they want to work with values-led businesses that are kind of affecting change in their own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of the new generation, I suppose, coming into business is about work-life balance, not least because the pandemic has taught everybody about flexi working and how that works. And, we've all done pretty well during the pandemic in terms of keeping businesses going, and it was all very flexible. So I think that's the future in terms of working. Similarly, you're currently working out of a co-working office. Do you think you're going to be working out of a co-working office for the foreseeable, or are you going to take your own bricks and mortar?
Yeah, so funnily enough, we're going through our B Corp application at the moment, and one of the questions is one of the things that the question is, do you have an office? And actually, when we were setting up, no, we don't. Look, Liam and I are working absolutely fine from home. Adding extra people, it's working fine. But there's just something to be said for seeing people sometimes. And so I think a balance of co-working works really well for us, where we've got hubs in Cheltenham or Bristol or London or Manchester, if we need them, that we can use, and we can all get together and see each other. But equally, there's that kind of flexibility, which, I mean, being very honest, in kind of the early days of Kingsbridge, you were at your desk all day, you had your desk, you were out there all day, Monday to Friday, and you were out of the office if you were seeing clients, and that it wasn't sustainable, and it has to change.
It's old school insurance though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think COVID has done such favors for so many people, not least kind of people with kids, kind of young parents, people with that kind of other interests, that kind of a family that are far away, that it just means that you can actually still do the job. Sometimes lots of people tell me better because you're actually there and able to focus. So yeah, I think co-working will work really well for us to start with, and it allows us to kind of be wherever we need to be for a period.
So, Tom, insurance isn't the most, sexy industry in the world. How do you fire people up when you go into the office to get them motivated? Did you stand there like Jordan Belfort with a microphone and shout inspirational words at them? How do you do it?
Wolf of Wall Street or Vin Diesel on Boiler Room. I think, look, where my passion lies is in that kind of innovation and disruption. And because of the fact that insurance isn't sexy, it's ripe for innovation and disruption. And so it's our ability to do something better or in a different way than that traditional incumbent. And that really has always been the focus. And then bringing this kind of absolute obsession with kind of customer service and kind of customer centricity to thinking, what do they need? Asking them, what do they need? What do they add value? We invested that time to do that. And they ended up actually valuing what they had. And that actually is a really kind of, it's worthwhile, and people see the kind of the benefit in doing it.
I think Capsule as a business is actually making insurance quite cool. I think the branding is excellent. I think it looks very, very good. In terms of businesses and brands that Capsule have won in their 5-month tenure to date, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a real spread of businesses. And the good news is they're really cool, exciting businesses that we're loving doing business with. A couple of examples would be Castor, the Andy Murray-backed sports brand. So those guys, and again, they're stories that you can get excited about, because this is two brothers that are kind of 28 and 30, or similar ages to that started the business a few years ago, parents' back bedroom. They've since gone on to kind of get backing from Andy Murray, get backer from the Issa brothers, but kind of recently bought Asda, just done deals now with Newcastle, with Wolves, with Saracens, kind of working with Adam Peaty, working with Patrick Reed in golf. Their trajectory they're on is just so exciting. And actually, it's kind of a privilege to just be part of those journeys. Another similar story, a business called Wild Cosmetics, the guys that make the refillable, recyclable deodorant blocks. So again, there's a sustainable business, just growing this business like crazy over the last couple of years, taking investment from Jam Jar, the guys behind Innocent Smoothies, launching internationally, launching new products. And there's a real opportunity for us to add value, to say new products, new markets, insurance considerations, insurance risk. You're manufacturing products from here and bringing them here. And that's where actually a conversation with Liam, a conversation with Dad, it can take real comfort knowing that, yes, they're growing like crazy. Yes, they're doing all these great things, but actually they're also well protected. And so it's businesses like that, certain businesses in fintech that are kind of less well-known brands. But I guess there's a real opportunity for us that we've spotted in just being able to learn and see businesses in their chosen areas that are really kind of doing things differently, but where we've got our ability to be a little part of that story.
You're incredibly passionate about Capsule. You can see that. You speak so eloquently, but yet your enthusiasm is infectious. Now, in terms of when you have woken up in the morning and you're about to go to work and stuff's hit the fan, it's gone Pete Tong, how do you kick yourself into gear? And has there been a point where you want to just pack it all in, regardless if it's Capsule or Kingsbridge?
The one thing I have learned, I've always felt that, people laugh about this at Kingsbridge, that I was, because of the fact that kind of we grew the division that I ran from pretty much nothing to being a really kind of high growth and large business, I really felt I'd actually been on a startup journey myself. And the reality was I hadn't. There were kind of 10 plus people. It was already a profitable business and a brand that was reasonably well known in the insurance market. And I've only learned since leaving Kingsbridge and not having a salary and not having the benefits that go with it, and actually starting afresh, what running a startup feels like. And I think that will make quite a lot of people that know me and worked at Kingsbridge laugh, I think.
And what is running a startup like, though? You say that you've only realised it over the last 5 months. What have you fundamentally realised about it?
You get a real realisation of your shortfalls and your areas that you aren't necessarily strong in. When you're trying to do everything and realising that you're actually only really good at kind of 2 of the 100 things that you need to be good at, which is where this co-founder element becomes so important. Again, COVID's probably exacerbated this, but I've gone from working in a kind of office of 100 people that is buzzing almost all the time, to startup land, where traditionally a startup land, you'd be with your co-founders every day, and you'd but actually kind of COVID has meant you're kind of sat in a room just kind of going through these monotonous
rocking
tasks.
backwards and forwards,
and going, was this the dream?
But I can't believe you started the business in the midst of a pandemic. I mean, what went through your head? You had an exit, you had a bit of cash. Why bother even starting it then? Why not just give it 18 months, have a relaxing couple of years?
I think it was just that keenness to crack on, and had the spark of an idea and felt like I'd ended a chapter, and thought there's a really good opportunity here, and I want to do it now. And it's that kind of classic kind of entrepreneurial impatience.
Yes.
And it did defy all logic, really, in terms of kind of just sitting at kind of just cracking on through COVID, or kind of looking at this in a few years' time. But I think it was that need to scratch an itch, and to kind of to do my own thing, and to see if it works.
In terms, Tom, of actually what it looks like from an exit, from a Capsule point of view, is this going to be your forever business? Are you going to be in it for the next 10, 15 years, or are you going to jump ship in 3? No,
definitely not jump ship in 3. And as much as you can ever know a business is going to be your forever business, then Capsule is it. I like you say, kind of, I'm super passionate about it. I can see such opportunity for it here and internationally. I'm always a massive believer in sticking to your niche, but I can see kind of that ability to find niches within niches. And look, I'm excited about the kind of the next 5, 10 plus years. But you just never know what happens in business in terms of the ability to acquire businesses, to partner with others, to kind of. So I always just try and keep an open mind on that. And Leah, my co-founder, always tries to just slow me down and tell me to go back and focus on sales.
Yeah, you're on a really exciting trajectory. What does success look like to you? Because it isn't money. You've started a new business. You've got a new baby, and as much as the business is that, what does success look like?
When I came out of Kingsbridge, I really the big thing I wanted to do is just go on another journey. Like kind of we all already look back on that kind of 14 to 20 period and go, whoa, that was so good. And even those that are on the journey beforehand. And I want to do that kind of, I love that idea of being the underdog. I love the idea of taking out bigger players. I love the idea of kind of, winning. Kind of, we won some such cool clients already over the last 6 months that kind of you can get genuinely passionate about. And so, success would look like building another business with really good people in it, that we're winning clients that we're proud of, that we're feeling like we're affecting change in our own way. And actually, to your point, you find some level of work-life balance. I don't think you don't want to be kind of absolutely hammering it in 20 years' time, owing the bank a lot of money. You want to be in a really good position so that you can just do what you enjoy, and give great opportunities to people, and look back and I haven't just got the business that my parents started as my kind of good thing on my CV.
No, you're now your own man.
Yeah, and I can say to my friends, no, I don't work for my mum and dad.
Yeah, you can go to the pub and say, I am a fully fledged entrepreneur. It's what you can do, and drink a brew dog from an insurance deal that you've brokered, and maybe go to the gym after in some Gymshark clothes.
Quite right.
In terms of you being on the Sunday Times Fast Track list, do you think you'll be on there soon?
I can't be, because it's finished.
It's done.
It's
really?
Gone. I mean, that was a really frustrating.
When did that happen?
It was quite funny, and it didn't get a huge deal of press. But look, I've followed it forever and loved it forever, and like lots of people, aspired to be on it. We were due to launch in June, and in May it was announced in a very small part of the last Fast Track that after 24 years they aren't continuing.
I had no idea, because I often see it on vans still, Fast Track 100 or whatever, and you go, that's brilliant, I wish I was on there. But
yeah. So maybe some reincarnation. Maybe we'll start with aiming for the Startups 100.
The Startups 100. Maybe you could start your own. There you go. In terms of if I want to find out a bit more about Capsule and update myself on your growth, keep track, and frankly maybe just even use you from a service point of view, how do I do that, Tom?
I mean, very boring answer, but probably LinkedIn, which is the only social network I survive on, which I know is wrong. I need to kind of get on the others. But look, LinkedIn, kind of Capsule is on Instagram, Capsule's on LinkedIn. We're going to now kind of, hopefully with the help of our kind of new head of marketing, really start to be more vocal, really start to go out, kind of actively kind of talk to high growth businesses, and kind of really build the brand. But look, kind of I'm on LinkedIn, and I kind of love talking to entrepreneurs, founders, anyone in high growth businesses, or anyone that thinks anything we're doing is remotely interesting.
Tom, thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast. It's been truly inspirational. And actually, to be fair, I love the business. I think it's really smart, and good luck with trying to get these high growth businesses on your record.
Awesome. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me, Oliver.
Thanks for listening to this episode. For more information, check out the description where you can find exclusive video snippets on my YouTube channel, as well as contact details and links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please show your support as always by subscribing. If you or someone you know should be on the show, please email me via oliver@pinpoint-media.co.uk and I promise I'll get back to you. Remember, there's never a good time to start a business, but in business, you should always have a good time. Take care. Success in the Mind is proud to be sponsored by Coronation Wealth Management, a professional service providing tailored financial advice to business owners, entrepreneurs, managers, and clients looking to grow and protect their wealth or reach their financial goals. The team at Coronation Wealth provides services including retirement, investment, protection, and business planning. To find out more, go to coronationwealth.co.uk. This podcast is supported by our media partner, Blocks & PR, who represent some of the most powerful brands within the luxury, lifestyle and fashion sector. Go and check them out at blocksandpr.com.